everybody, and welcome back to another session with Dr. Papori Barooah. Today I would like to take up a very relevant topic, the topic of writing an email. What are the basics of writing an email and how do you actually go about writing an email? Now whenever we talk about email, that's a very new concept for us. When we were young, we were very small. In fact, we had something which we call postal mail, right? Today we refer to it as the snail mail. Now, when we talk about emails, that is something that happens with just a click of the mouse. But when we were small, we used to write letters, and it used to take almost 10-15 days, and we used to wait in anticipation for the letters to be replied. We have this concept of the pen friend also. Now those are gone concepts. Now we have this new technological innovation called the email. And first things first, let me just tell you, which one do you think is correct? Email with the hyphen or email without the hyphen? To make things clear for you, both are actually correct. You may choose whichever you want to. But if you're writing an examination, be consistently sticking to just one form of writing, either with the hyphen or without the hyphen. Now let me take you directly to the different steps. In fact, there are 9 steps of writing a proper email. And when we go about writing, what are the things you need to keep in mind? The first step is that choosing an email ID. Be very careful to choose an email ID that looks professional. For instance, anirbanbarooah@gmail.com, right? No spacing in between. But you should not write things like crazyboy.com, crazyboy@gmail.com. Things like that will look unprofessional and will throw a very bad impression on your application, or for instance anybody who comes across your email ID. Secondly, we talk about the subject line. The subject line should be very precise and to the point. Just like when you write a letter, the subject line tells everything about what actually to expect inside the letter. Similarly, in an email also, there's something called the subject line, which should be very precise and to the point. Thirdly, we use a proper salutation like dear sir, dear madam, or dear Mr. Barooah, things like that. So the proper salutation, how you actually call the person over the email is very important. Next, we use a proper introduction. The first sentence itself should take the person to what that particular email is about. Therefore, the introduction should include what should be expected in the email. The fifth thing is that you write the actual message in paragraphs. Maximum there should be 5 paragraphs of 5 sentences. Emails, as you know, are short. People have no time in the world now. Therefore, the message should be passed across very fast and immediately. Next is we use the correct form of leave taking, like sincerely, yours truly. Alright, those are very important also. And when we sign the name, it has to have the full name, the professional name if any. Full name, your full name, and professional, say for instance, what is the position you hold in that particular company, because here we are talking about writing the formal email. Like for instance, you might be the sales manager. That is the professional name. You have to include that if you have it. Next is proofread for the content. How the content is, whether what you really wanted to say has been conveyed by the content. That's very important. You should not write something that is not relevant to the content, not relevant to the subject line. And the 9th step, which is one of the most important steps, is check for mistakes in spelling and grammar. Whenever we talk about mistakes in spelling and mistakes in grammar, we have to be very careful because they glare out. Because people will never accept your application or your email also if You write with spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes, because they are not forgivable. So be very careful about that. For instance, the person's name is, say, Sangeet Bora, right? So you do not write the Sangeet there, or the name of the person, the first name. Normally we go by the last name, or normally we say dear sir or dear madam in whenever you're writing a formal email, right? Okay, one more thing we need to remember, the formal ending. Now, normally how do you end it? You cannot end abruptly. So you write, say for instance, I look forward to hearing from you. So it's a very nice way of saying bye-bye. We're coming to the end of the email. Right. One more thing that's very important to remember, I'm just precisely bulleting it off for you. Like say for instance here, if you start an email with dear sir, you always have to end with yours faithfully. That means you're not using the title also of the person, Sharma, Das, whatever, you're not using it. Therefore, you're just writing dear sir. So at the end, you're going to write yours faithfully. But you're writing, say for instance, dear Mr. Bora. Then you have to write yours sincerely. So that's a particular format that we follow. And one more thing we need to remember, you have to keep your emails very short, and every space also is a character, just like ABCD. Therefore, we have to be careful about that. Now, this is the look of a formal email. So this is what you have when you have to compose an email, for instance. Therefore, you'll have something called from, that is your own email ID will come automatically by default when you start to compose an email. Then we have something called to there. So, and what is the to there? When you tell it's a to, it has to have the email ID of the person you're sending the email to. The next is CC. What is CC? It's a carbon copy. Means that you also want somebody else to receive a copy of this particular email. That is known as a carbon copy. And the other person will also know, the to person, your first person who will get your email will also know that a similar copy has been sent to another person in CC. But what is BCC? BCC is blind carbon copy. Means you want someone else to get this particular email, but you do not want now the first person to know that you have sent the email to this person also. Therefore, it's a blind carbon copy. The person will not know you have sent an email to this person. So, there is a sort of privacy associated with BCC. You can send it to the person, without the other person knowing it. You may avoid it if you do not want it. Now, what do you think is a subject line? As I told you, it is something that has to be very precise and it has to tell you what the email is all about. It has to be very short. Just like in letter writing also, that's very short, and even in email also the subject has to be to the point, precise, and it has to tell what the email is about. Right. So now let us, just to go back the slide, I just wanted to tell you in the compose part what we will include. I'm including in the next slide. So this is the way your email will look. The first one is a salutation, where you write either dear Mr. Sharma, dear sir, either of them, and you write a comma. Then we have the opening line with something like this, please find here with the details of things like that. Then we go on to write the full email information in detail. So we add more sentences which will actually keep up with the first opening sentence. We'll add details of the opening sentence. So that will make up the body in a way, it makes up the body of the email. Then there will be a closing sentence which will tell, I would like to thank you, things like that. I would like to thank you, or I would like to sincerely tell you that how happy, something like that. So it's a closing sentence. So you're not abruptly closing it. And then of course before you just sign off, you say sincerely, truly, things like that. As I had mentioned in the earlier slide, when it's dear Mr. Sharma, when it's dear sir, it's a different sort of signing off. Then we have lastly the signature, where you have your name, your company's name, and of course the phone and the fax number. that this is how you go about, and as I told you, there should be maximum 120 words in an email when you're writing it from the academic point of view. This way, I come to the conclusion of my section on writing an email. I hope this was a very helpful session for you, where we have dealt with the details of the points regarding how we go about writing an email and what the different sections called as. If you have any doubts, do let me know in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you so much for watching.